Hi all! I know it's been a few weeks since my last video and many of you have sent me different articles and things that you wanted me to address and just wanted my opinion on, and I'm gonna get to a couple of them, but I knew I had to do a video today because for those of us who live in New York, the official verdict came down for the ex-NYPD officer Peter Liang, who shot and killed Akai Gurley in the stairwell in the inner city housing Brooklyn complex last year. And Officer Liang got probation. He didn't get any jail time. And many people are up in arms. Many people are on the fence. And people just don't know, what to expect anymore when a young black male or black male in general is killed at the hands, whether it's a civilian or a police officer. It always seems like the victim's death goes in vain. I've been on the fence, though, about this one because I think it's different. I don't think Akai Gurley's death is in the same category as a Sean Bell or an Amadou Diallo. In those situations, police officers use overly excessive force. We know here in New York, they have no problem firing 50, 60 shots into a human being like they're spraying cattle for fleas. We know that. But Officer Liang, for me, I definitely think that I think he should have gotten some jail time. I don't think he should have gotten something like 25 to life. Anything that he would have been given, you're always going to have somebody on the other side, though, who doesn't feel justice has been served. And when people say that about justice hasn't been served, another black life gone, and it doesn't matter, no. The system was never put into place for blacks to benefit from anyway. Why do you think white America was up in arms when O.J. Simpson got off for killing Nicole and Ronald Goldman? The system was not put into place to benefit blacks, minorities, people of color in general. So I don't understand why people are expecting, because we got a black president, that somehow magic was going to happen when the face of the cereal box looked different, but the cereal on the inside is still the same. You can't. I just think Officer Liang overreacted, but we can't continue to use that as the excuse for rookie cops who are in, inner city housing or in the more dangerous communities here in New York. You're a police officer. At any given time, your job can go left. The excuse about I was startled, I was scared, all these things continuously come up, and it seems to work. But in order for things to change, we need to start pushing our children away from being in the entertainment industry and reality TV stars and keeping their heads in these books to become lawyers and judges and understand the importance in setting the example of jury duty and getting into politics. You cannot expect somebody to make a change or vote in your favor or see the reality of what you're facing in your community if they don't look like you and they can't relate. It's no different than the ending of the movie A Time to Kill. When Matthew McConaughey gave out the description of a little girl raped and brutally beaten and everything, it wasn't until he said, now imagine that she's white, that the people got it. Because the description of it in the beginning was a black man sitting on trial with his little black daughter who had been raped by some Klan's white men. Nobody cared. But when you bring it to them and say, well, wait a minute, now we have to pull away everything and it could be one of ours. Now we got to make a change. If we don't have judges and lawyers and politicians and people that look like us, they can't relate. So if it's not an issue in your community, you might just see it, it was an accident, let him go. Unfortunately, once again, in our community, we will have another young black child, this one a female, growing up without her father, perpetuating the stereotype and keeping the cycle of inconsistent households going because another black male was killed. I'm more concerned in this situation as to why they didn't try to get him help immediately. According to reports, they stood around, Officer Liang and his partner stood around for 5 or 6 minutes, him and Han. I'm more concerned with that. No effort was really given to save his life. He wasn't killed instantly. He died a short time later. You never know what CPR or had they called in or things like that or applying pressure to the wound and all these things that are supposed to occur could have possibly prevented. I don't think it was intentional, but at the same time, I don't think it should be put in the same category. We know they're going to appeal and do all these things, but I don't know. And I'm tired of the excuse, though, coming from, police officers in regards to rookies when they're like, oh, I got startled or I was afraid or, I'm in unfamiliar territory. As a cop, you have to understand that at any given moment, what you're trained to know can go left at any given time. And unfortunately, when it occurs, it just seems like the victim always happens to be somebody of color, a black male, and It's just like, okay, slap him on the wrist and on to the next one. Unfortunately, Akai Gurley is not going to be the last. He wasn't the first. He's definitely not going to be the last. I feel like I'm going to be having the same discussion in the weeks to come. And, many people have been comparing this case to the Latasha Harling's case back from 1991. Two totally different cases, but I can understand because the outcome was the same. Latasha was a 15-year-old girl who went into a Korean, convenience store and she grabbed some orange juice, and apparently the impression, or it was almost suspected that she was stealing, but she had the money in her hand, and the Korean woman and her got into a scuffle. This girl put the orange juice on the counter and turned to walk out the store. The Korean woman shot this 15-year-old kid in the back of her head, and she got probation and something like a $500 fine. That was almost 20 years ago, or more than 20 years ago. So has times changed? No. And this was cross country, 3,000 miles away in California. So it's almost like, how much killing do we need to take in our community for we as a people to wake up and say, we're going to have to try to figure out something. And we need more judges, more politicians, more lawyers that look like us. Because if we don't have us defending us, nobody else is going to do it for us. There was an article sent to me about Johns Hopkins and American University doing some sort of a survey, and they compiled a whole bunch of information from white school teachers who teach predominantly black or minority children. And according to the survey, the white teachers basically said that they didn't have any hope that their black students would be successful or could be successful, or even something as small as graduate from high school. So people wanted to know what I thought, because I come from a predominantly white environment, and everybody who knows my crazy mama knows, had she ever heard something like this coming out of Lawrence Public School District, she herself would probably be on death row. Everything starts in the home. Nobody can make you feel any way that you have not been programmed in the home to believe is true. Do I think that there are many white teachers who do not see the potential in minority students? Absolutely. But what somebody else thinks about my child doesn't matter. It's what I instill in them for them to know that they can achieve the impossible. Nobody has a glass ceiling over your head. And if it's not being reinforced in the home, if a teacher says something like that, or is not taking the effort or putting the effort in to giving the attention and the help to the black children like they may be doing to the white, that's an issue for the parents to handle. But I think that we can't get upset when somebody that doesn't look like us doesn't teach our children what needs to be taught in the home. If a teacher felt like, black or white, that your child did not have the tools to succeed, one, as the parent, you got to prove them wrong by being proactive in your children's life. We spend too much time sitting here making sure our children know the latest dances and can name everybody in these reality TV shows, and these kids don't know anything about freedom riders and their history and books. What I look like expecting a white teacher to teach my black child their black history? What part of the game is that? My mother didn't leave it up to Lawrence to teach us, because when you're in an all-white establishment like that, the only thing that white people teach black kids are Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King. They don't know nothing about freedom riders and, the Middle Passage and all that stuff. Absolutely not. We learned that stuff by books that my mother bought, movies she made us watch, and programs and documentaries. I learned a whole lot more at home than I would have learned. And unfortunately, parents don't want to get involved until something groundbreaking, like a teacher commented on the weave I have in my daughter's hair. Now you want to jump bad and get excited. If you're not a proactive parent, whatever's going to happen to your children is going to be at your hand, because whether your kids are a success or not, whether they go out here in the real world and can function, like a comprehensive adult, it falls back on you. So black teacher, white teacher, you can't put the pressure on them. And we do have many teachers out here today who aren't teachers. They're in it for incentives to get their student loans paid off. They're in it because those who can't teach. It's hard to find a teacher that's really dedicated today. And I do believe teaching is the hardest job in the world, because you cannot control the environment all the time. You are a teacher with 30, 40 kids in the class. They're bringing their home life into your classroom. How am I supposed to control the environment if I can't teach it? It doesn't work that way. And if your child has a white teacher and you feel like the teacher is not paying the attention to your child or being discriminatory or separating themselves, then as a parent, it's time for you to address it. it is time for you to address it. 99% of the teachers I had at Lawrence Public Schools systems from kindergarten to 12th grade was a white teacher. And my mother didn't pull no punches with them. She spoke her mind, and she made it very aware that if anything went left, you need to call me, because I will put my daughter and my son in check. But she never felt the pressure on them to say, okay, well, it's your job to teach my children about their blackness, or it's your job to encourage my children. People are always so shocked when they're like, oh, who's your favorite teacher, or what teacher inspired you? And I'm like, my biggest inspiration was my mother. I have not had one teacher from kindergarten through my MBA education that I can say influenced me more than my own mama. And my mother don't even have a high school diploma. So all of that stuff starts in the home. So everybody who wanted to know what I thought about it, I can't relate to that. I'm not going to say that there wasn't some teachers probably at Lawrence that felt like Munchell was too ambitious. How dare this girl think she could do what Oprah does, or, all of the aspirations that I had, even Kaya had, even my brother. From my understanding, John Johnson was the only black salutatorian I think we had in Lawrence history. I could be wrong, but we achieved because we came from home lives where the parents were involved, and they were parents. They weren't our friends. The difference is, the proof is in the pudding. Look at what Lawrence Public School District is today. They don't have parents over there. They got friends. Everybody over there is sitting on their hands. Never would it occurred with my mother and the rest of the parents of the kids that I grew up with. The black ones, the white ones, the Asian ones, they wasn't having it. They would have burnt the whole town down before they allowed something like that to occur. And when we graduated, Lawrence Public School District was the #1 school district to beat. All of us who graduated went to top dollar universities in the country. So if you're in a situation where a teacher is not influencing your child, so be it. Take them out the class, but make sure you're doing what you're supposed to do at home, because it's nobody else's responsibility to influence, encourage, or raise your children but you. You bring them here. It's your job to do your job as a mother and a father to make sure my children have the education that they need. And if you don't see fit and feel like they're getting it, you have options as a parent. And one of those options is to not sit back and pretend like you don't know what's going on. Open your mouth, ask questions, and get involved, whether it's PTA or the Board of Education. Figure it out. One last thing I'm going to address. There's been a whole lot of stuff going on about a woman's role in a relationship and what a woman is supposed to do, in regards to whether she works or if she stays at home. And, somebody sent me something about a lawyer supposedly making $400,000 a year, and she married a man who makes $40,000. And then, would you marry somebody, and whether or not you're supposed to have a prenup. And there was a Fox News anchor or somebody who made a statement about, women are less ambitious than men, and that's why women aren't as successful and they need to stay home. If you know my mother, you know what I'm going to say. Never will I let what a man bring to the table be all I ever have to eat from. I don't care if he got Bill Gates money, honey, and all I do is bake cookies and sell cookies out the back door of the house for $20 a day. That's my $20 a day. I don't have an issue with stay-at-home wives, stay-at-home moms. That's you. Congratulations and God bless. But I will always work and have my own. As long as my head stay hot and I have the ability to be mobile and do anything, whether it's working the pole or the stroll or running the boardroom, I am going to always have my own money. I will never give all that power to a man to take care of me. I got one daddy, and I don't sleep with my daddy. And my daddy can only tell me certain things to do. Women who want to stay at home and don't work, that's you. When these men walk in the door 20 years later and you've been at home nursing children and thumping and bumping and skipping around at soccer practice, and he walks in the courtroom and makes you out to be the villain, and you don't have any money and anything to fall back on, I will never grovel at the feet of a man. Never in my life. I don't know how women stay at home and don't work. It's not fulfilling. And I don't want to hear anything about being a stay-at-home wife is a job. And no, it's not. A job to me, you get paid for. When you become a stay-at-home mom, that's a choice. That's a choice. It's a privilege. It's a choice. A job is something that you make. So if you want to know how I feel, I believe everybody that has the ability to work should get off their behind and work, because it'll help me out from paying all these taxes from all of y'all sitting around here collecting these welfare checks, not doing nothing. Independence is what I know. And I'm not here to display any of my beliefs on anybody else. But in regards to the article, I just think that women spend too much time catering to men and holding them down. And when it all said and done, these men get up and leave and go on with their lives. And these women are left jaded and bitter, baroque, and broken and don't know what to do, which is why you always have to have your own prenups and all. I don't care if we both work at McDonald's and we want to get married. Oh, we need a prenup, because if we got married with $2.12 in the bank account, I want my $2.12 when it's over. You will never be able to take my independence from me. If I want to buy a pair of shoes that's $1,000 and all of the bills are paid, I'm going to buy my shoes. I'm not asking you for permission. I got one daddy. I'm not coming to you with my hand out like I need your money for allowance and can you and I need your permission at child buy. Never ever in this world. As long as I can work, I will always have my own. And there's not a woman's son on this earth, no matter how good he is in bed, how good he looks in person, that will allow me to take my independence from me. Even in a marriage, it's not going to happen. So for me, get off your behind and get a job and work. Would I marry somebody making $40,000 a year if I was making $400,000? Absolutely. With a prenup. I'm not saying that he would have a hidden agenda, but when people break up and marriages fail, people turn into very vindictive, angry people. And just to keep everything clean and dry, it's better to already have your stuff on paper. So when it's over, you can leave with what you came with. And if that's the holy drawers you had, you're going to leave the $100 drawers that I bought you. Every woman should always have her own. Same thing goes for men too. I'm going to speak from a woman's perspective because I date men. But always have your own. Always have your own. I think that's enough of ranting and raving for this evening. I'll be back soon with some more stuff going on in the world. Feel free to leave your comments and give me your opinions. I hope those of you who wanted to know my opinions on these titles and these subjects got what you wanted. I'll see you later. Goodbye.